In the summer of 1518, in the bustling city of Strasbourg, something truly bizarre unfolded. The people there would soon find themselves gripped by one of history's strangest and most unsettling events. An outbreak not of war, not of disease, but of dance. Yes, dance. But not the joyful kind. This was an uncontrollable, exhausting, and ultimately deadly compulsion to move. It began quietly, almost unnoticeably. On a warm July morning, a woman named Frau Troffea walked out into the narrow streets. Without music, without reason, she began to dance. Her movements were awkward at first, her arms jerking, her legs kicking in odd rhythm. Passers-by laughed, assuming it was a joke or perhaps drunken foolishness. But as hours turned into the night, it became clear that something was very, very wrong. Frau Troffea could not stop. Her body shook, her feet pounded the stone ground, and her face twisted with both exhaustion and terror. For days, she kept dancing. Some accounts claim she danced for nearly a week without rest. When neighbors tried to restrain her, she fought them off, not out of desire, but because her body simply would not obey her mind. The villagers watched in horror. And then, the strangest part, others began to join her. Within a few days, a handful of people were dancing uncontrollably in the streets. By the end of the week, dozens were caught in this bizarre plague. Men, women, young and old alike, struck by an invisible force, compelled to dance without end. Their feet bled, their bodies shook, but still they moved. Some screamed for help, even as their legs continued their torment. By the end of the month, over 400 people were caught in this madness. Imagine the scene. The streets of Strasbourg, normally filled with merchants, bakers, and townsfolk, transformed into a nightmarish festival of agony. People convulsing, collapsing, rising again, moving to rhythms no one else could hear. Some reports claimed that people danced until they dropped dead. Heart attacks, strokes, sheer exhaustion, claiming lives right there on the cobblestone. The city leaders, desperate for answers, turned to the physicians of the time, but their solutions only made things worse. Believing that the dancers were suffering from overheated blood, a common medieval diagnosis, they recommended a cure: let them dance it out. And so, in an astonishing decision, the city erected stages. They hired musicians and pipers, even brought in professional dancers, encouraging the afflicted to keep moving, to purge the sickness through motion. But this only fanned the flames. With music playing, the dancers surged with even more frantic energy. The streets pulsed with chaos. What was supposed to be a cure became a public nightmare. But what could have caused such madness? For centuries, historians, scientists, and storytellers have puzzled over this event. There is no single explanation, but many theories. One possibility is mass hysteria. The early 1500s were brutal in Strasbourg. The city had been suffering from famine. Harvests had failed, food was scarce, and disease was common. People were terrified, malnourished, and desperate. Under this pressure, entire communities could fall into what we now call psychogenic illness, where the mind manifests physical symptoms. Just as a crowd can panic together, perhaps they also danced together, their fear and anxiety erupting in uncontrollable movement. Another theory points to ergot poisoning. Rye bread, a staple food at the time, was sometimes infected with a fungus called ergot. This fungus can produce hallucinations, spasms, and convulsions. It's possible that the townsfolk, unknowingly poisoned by their own bread, fell victim to mass hallucination and involuntary movement. But if this were the case, why would the outbreak be so localized? And why did it last weeks instead of hours? Others suggest a religious explanation. In medieval Europe, superstition and faith intertwined deeply with daily life. Many believed in curses and saints who could bless or punish them. At the time, Saint Vitus was thought to have the power to inflict a dancing curse on sinners. People believed they were under divine punishment, cursed to dance until their sins were forgiven. And in a time when religion explained the unexplainable, this belief only deepened the hysteria. There are even whispers of secret rituals, that the dancing plague may have been some form of collective cult practice gone terribly wrong. While there's little evidence to support this, the very mystery of the event leaves room for speculation. But perhaps the most chilling possibility is that we may never know the true cause. The dancing plague of 1518 remains an unsolved mystery, suspended between science and superstition, fact and legend. Let's pause and imagine the lives of those who lived through it. Picture a mother watching her child's body twist uncontrollably in the street. A husband trying desperately to hold his wife as she dances herself into collapse. Families torn apart by fear, unable to help their loved ones. For the townsfolk, this wasn't just strange, it was terrifying. Every day they wondered, who will be next? As the weeks passed, the plague eventually burned itself out. By early September, the dancing dwindled, and those who survived returned to their lives. Today, the dancing plague continues to fascinate. It appears in novels, plays, songs, and even modern discussions about psychology and crowd behavior. And maybe, if it happened once, could it happen again?